So Ohio is a non-right-to-work state, and card check is the big agenda or the big item on the agenda of unions in this election cycle. So are there any parallels at the national level between what would happen if card check were passed and the conditions Ohio is currently suffering as a non-right-to-work state?
First of all, Ohio is falling behind. We've lost almost 400,000 jobs in the last few years under the Fisher administration. I'm running against the Fisher as lieutenant governor, and yet he is a strong supporter of card check, which will make it more difficult to create a job in Ohio. Ohio is not a right-to-work state, and therefore there are businesses in Ohio that tell me that if card check were to come into effect, which means that there would not be a secret ballot in a union election, rather there would be a card to be signed, and there would also be a forced time period in an arbitration, coming in from the outside, that if that were to happen, that those businesses would be very unlikely to stay in Ohio. I was walking down the shop floor of a factory in Cleveland, Ohio, a couple of months ago. It's a factory with about 80 employees. It's a factory that is making it through the recession but barely, because they're involved in the automotive and the transportation industry. And when I asked this owner about the issues I always ask about, which is healthcare and taxes and regulations and cap and trade and so on, when I got to card check, he said, "Rob, if card check comes into effect, we're shutting our doors. We're moving out of Ohio." And I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Because it's not a right-to-work state. Why would I stay in Ohio?" Now, that's somebody who's making a decision, who's there where the rubber meets the road, deciding whether he's going to be able to continue to struggle through this recession here in Ohio or whether to move somewhere else. So the votes for the card check legislation are probably there already in the House of Representatives. There are enough co-sponsors that it can pass tomorrow. The votes are probably close to being there in the Senate. And that's why this Senate election is so important, among other things, because my opponent, Lee Fisher, has already signed up for card check, which again is going to help unionize smaller businesses in Ohio, but it's going to hurt in terms of job growth in Ohio. And by the way, when I talk to union members, I'm walking down the same shop floor at a union shop and talk to them about how they feel about card check. I get very mixed reviews. When I talk about not having the secret ballot, union members tell me they want to keep the secret ballot. They like the idea of being able to make their decision in private and not have undue influence from the labor side or from the management side. So it seems to me this is legislation that might be very popular among the union leadership, but not among the rank and file. I had a shop steward tell me here in Columbus, Ohio, at a factory tour several months ago, that he, as a shop steward, thought card check was okay, but he didn't like the fact that he was going to lose the secret ballot. Well, that's obviously a fundamental part of card check. So this is one of those issues where there's a clear division between me and my opponent. It's also one of those issues where there is a clear division between what legislation is going to help grow jobs and what legislation is going to result in even more job loss here in the great state of Ohio.